Yo, 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 welcome back to Hit Away Hurts. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we're good. We're good. What's up? What's up?
And
Hello to
today,
everyone.
just
IG
for,
fam, IG fam
yeah,
got it
talking to
early.
that's it. For everyone watching here today, we got a special guest, Jordan Hodges. How's it going, Jordan?
Good, mate. Thank you for having me on. Both of the marks. Appreciate it.
No worries, mate.
Anytime,
We had to
anytime.
have you. Your comments in the chat were just that good that we needed to get our second opinion on, Like, we love, giving knowledge, but we also love getting argued with, right? It's like, and for me, studying law, it's like my favorite thing ever, right? To get someone to have an opposing opinion. And, to have you who has, like, on your way to getting a degree in marketing, and to have me and Mark who learned a completely different way all through online, experience that type of thing. I think offering two different ranges of sources of knowledge is so important for anyone, And yeah, we really appreciate having you on.
No stress. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
All right,
So
awesome.
do you want to tell us like some background about you and what you do?
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Mark. So, obviously, the conclusion of high school, graduated in 2018, decided to venture on the journey of becoming or majoring in business, but particularly marketing, as I always was very interested in that, how that world and how everything goes about it with, advertising, PR. It's a very multiplicitous sort of degree, in the sense that you learn a lot about things, not just, advertising or, digital things, but you also learn about traditional means, and
Yeah.
it just really interested me. So I was sort of happy that my passion, as well as something that's a logical thing, especially, up and coming now with a lot of businesses and things like that, especially nowadays in a pandemic, I think it was just lucky that they sort of intertwined. And I'm beginning studying at university, and I've got one more year left, starting next year, and then I've completed that. So looking forward to it.
Let's see.
Sounds awesome. And like it's so cool because like we both are like in the same industry but from two different angles. So to hear it from you, it's like exciting, right? Like we get a whole new point of view.
100%.
So today so obviously I think you watched the last episode. We were talking about the steps to marketing your brand. We actually went overtime on the last episode, so we decided to cut it into two episodes, and right now we're in the second episode, and we're up to developing your business brand and the importance of developing the business brand. And we're also going to talk about practicality of it, right? Like how can businesses develop their business brand when they're first starting off?
Hmm.
So for me, I think developing your business brand is something that's an ongoing process, especially when it comes to personal branding attached to a business. And one of the biggest issues with personal branding, I feel that businesses struggle with, is that you can't measure how well your personal branding is, right? There's no real, you could get stats and stats and stats, and heaps of digital marketers say this, like you can pay the top 10 stats people to come into your business and give you stats about your sales, stats about your income, stats about this, but you can't measure how well people completely understand the message that you're trying to get across, right? Unless you go through and read the comments, but that's not enough, right? There's no real hardline stats for personal branding. So what that does to businesses is that either one, they put less effort because they can't measure how well they're doing, or two, they put too much effort and they're not really getting their message across, or they're not really clear with their message. And so we feel that personal branding separates the best businesses from some of the people that don't use personal branding to their advantage. What's your opinion on it?
Well, yeah, I'd agree with pretty much basically everything you said. In regards to, personal branding is a very big key characteristic that every brand, every corporation should have, whether you're big or small.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think you could probably pick, especially if you're starting out as a business, anything in particular that would be more dominant than another category. But
For sure.
like personal branding is what it is. It's personal, and it depends on how you target, obviously, your target market, but also what you want to provide. What content is that? What are you offering for people to buy? If it's a good or a service, or if you're even a consultancy firm, or it doesn't have to be a tangible thing. And I think that as long as you keep and adhere to your own rules, and they're very professional rules at that, depending on if you're a professional type of business or facade that you want to put up, it really just depends on what you think is personal, and what your target market and your customer persona would really reflect. And I think that's just the key area there for talking about personal branding. It really depends on what you want or how you want to come across, to your target market.
For sure. And
Yeah.
do you think, like, because like, you mentioned like you have to kind of customize your personal branding to your audience, do you think it's better to be genuine and authentic to yourself and to your personal branding, or do you think it's better to customize it and kind of put on a little bit of a show for like thing? Because we know that traditional marketing and like really all the Fortune 500 companies, they're advertising, some of it may be genuine, some of it may be exaggerated to get a reaction or to get something out of someone, so that they attach their personal branding in a certain way to get a reaction. Like, do you think or genuine and being authentic is really important when you're doing that, or do you think it's more important to see how much of a following you can get from it?
Well, that's a very good question. I think that's a question that we don't really have all the answers to at the moment. But what I can deduce and what I can see is that like you said, major companies and professional companies, they would they act on storytelling, and that's what we're taught in university. That storytelling is a huge key part, along with many other professions, and it doesn't matter if it's in business or another sort of avenue. That storytelling is what grips people. People want to hear stories, whether they're positive, whether they're negative. It just depends on how they're told and who they're told to, really.
For sure.
But I think with being genuine and authentic is, again, it's a personal sort of choice depending on what you're doing. I would always advocate for being personal, being an authentic person. However, as we've seen with famous celebrities, I know that they're not in the same boat as many of us that are doing marketing or doing business, but 100% that they add a little bit of cream, so to speak, or the cherry on top of their personalities in order to sell things. And
for sure,
again, that's more of a moral sort of dilemma that you yourself have to weigh up on your own conscience, but also how do you feel about possibly extorting or really putting on a different facade other than you being yourself to your customer sort of target. So it's really a tough question to sort of have a firm answer for
sure. And we'll get to your opinion in a second, Mark. I just wanted to mention, like, the thing is, like, it is a moral dilemma. I completely agree. But right now, I feel like everyone has mastered that ability to exaggerate, to kind of push themselves in a certain way to get more sales, that type of thing. So that is, like, I feel like where the biggest issue is when it comes to old marketing versus new marketing. Because I feel like now being genuine, being authentic is not only makes content creating for you, advertising for you a lot easier. You less have to put effort into it because you're less putting on a show, right? That's you. That's organically you, right? So I think being genuine and being authentic actually sets you apart from the market. And like we've seen that, like it's stats have shown that Fortune 500 companies that are not being authentic against companies that are brand new, being completely authentic to the market in the same niches, are outperforming, right?
Yeah.
Or the Fortune 500s are on a decline for that reason. Now, lots of people argue Fortune 500 companies are on declines for other reasons, but I mean, the marketing is the crux of a business. What do you think, Mark?
No, it's right. And I just want to touch on the point that Jordan said. I'm doing social media marketing at uni as well, and they teach us a lot about storytelling, because that's a new wave. Honestly, that's what people want to see. And they go on that show, what's it called, the shark show. What's it called? The one where
Shark Tank.
Yeah, Shark Tank. There was that guy that one of the judge sharks that owns the NBA team.
Cuban.
Yeah, Mark Cuban. Yeah. Fuck it, got the same name and I forgot it. Yeah, he was saying just a few years back he wouldn't have paid anyone like just for storytelling, and now they're paying him like north of 6 figures and shit like that. So we like as you can see, like we've developing in marketing and shit like that, and that's why like a lot of these companies, like those bigger companies, they starting to get to that part as well. So, yeah.
For sure. And I think the biggest problem is now that they're starting late. Right? So how do you start building your story if you never said the crux of it? And what about those businesses that would have done dirty shit when they were starting off?
I don't think it's late, honestly. I think this is the start. This is the beginning.
I think it's late because like they've gone straight into the market in a different way, right? In like the way of, this is our product, this is how good we provide it, and that's it, right? And we don't really get a story behind it, right? But now that we're getting the story, we're not hearing it completely of how it came to be, right? We're going to hear more from a company starting today than a company that started 19 years ago, right? That has already hit millions, right? We're not going to hear their story the same way we'd hear, for example, our story or your story, Jordan, right? So I think the biggest important thing right now is that they're paying these people because they need it, right? Like they need that story as well.
Like with storytelling, it doesn't have to be specific to the company. It can be about like a product or service that they're putting out. And I'm
For
sure
sure.
like I don't know if John will agree with this, but um start like right now with storytelling with companies and like all the ads advertising using storytelling is like Facebook was 10 years ago when it was first
Yeah.
starting out. I think
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
storytelling is right
Well, I
now. I
think
don't know.
that, some of the points that you mentioned are really good, but what we've sort of got to ground ourselves is to remember that storytelling, I feel, is
Yeah.
is a technique. While it is, central to, who you are and about your company and what you stand for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that storytelling is a technique that can be used in different mediums. As I was watching the other day, I saw I think it's the Google ad where the father is getting her daughter into AFL football,
Yeah.
and he's, you're googling and what does hanger mean, local AFL clubs to play for. And I think that's telling you a story of a family. I'm assuming it's a single parent and in a relationship
Yeah.
that he's using the tools, the speak tool, or the voice tool of Google in order to play on Australia's sort of pastime with AFL football and the passion that we all have for that,
For
and
sure.
really shows the multiculturalism and inclusion of our great game. And I think that's a way of storytelling. It's not necessarily what Google are all about, but it's what Australia is about, and what we play on and what we really hold dear to us. And I think that storytelling is a great technique to use there. And whilst it's very integral to a business, it also can be used as a technique and can be altered and changed depending on what you're trying to market.
For sure. Like if you're storytelling for a product, it's a different storytelling when you're trying to humanize your company, right? When you're trying to put a name and a face to a company. And I think both are equally as important, right? Adding a story behind a product or service. Like for example, when we saw Gillette, Mark, when we were watching the
Yeah.
advertisement, we know that Gillette, supports this idea of pushing through, every single inconvenience in your life. They support people who have been, gone through stuff in their life. Obviously, like that little boy was disabled and stuff. And they say at the end of the video that they donated to like this disability. You know what I mean? So there's always different types of storytelling. And I think both of them are equally as important, when you're telling the story behind your product and what it does for people, and really telling the story of how your consumer feels after it has it, but also telling the story of what your business really is, what it represents, the face and the branding of your business, and I think that is on the rise a lot more now. And where they balance in terms of which one's more important, I'm not too sure. I think they're both just equally as important right now.
Well, yeah, I would agree in some sense, but I think that storytelling has been around for a while. Maybe it
For
might
sure.
have not been included in the marketing sort of umbrella, but it's been around for a long time, as we can tell with authors and other people that do really creative works in the science field and things like that. They use stories, and they use, well, that stories don't necessarily have to be false, that they
Yeah.
can be 100% factual. And I think that's what people really seem accustomed to, rather than just spitting out straight factual information and very difficult to understand writing. And I think that for the general population, here, that you're marketing to, and again, it all depends on who you're marketing to, that
Yeah.
storytelling seems to be a strong technique.
For sure, for sure. And the last point I wanted to touch on is like, because we spoke about like the pros, like the cons is that sometimes people can find that hard to be genuine. Sometimes people can find that hard to tell their story, especially if they haven't told it before. And we're talking about like putting a name and face to branding, right? Putting aside the other topic, like when they try to tell their story or whatever, it either feels exaggerated, either feels like there's parts missing, that type of thing. And now like people are holding people accountable, right? Like how did you get to where you were? Right?
Yeah.
Why haven't you helped this people? Like when people like rich shame and that type of thing, like that, those are all factors of storytelling, because people are telling stories and leaving out parts because they don't want to be held accountable for, right? So there are cons to it, of course, and it has to be done in a certain way that is beneficial for your business, but also genuine and authentic, right? And I think that's where like the middle ground has to be.
Well, I think, Mark, the cons that you're talking about are probably more political and more. So when businesses particularly play more on the political aspect or the spectrum, so
For
to
sure.
speak, and a lot with different sort of well, what people would assume as moral high grounds in the sense of
Like cancel
certain
culture and
issues.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Correct. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that businesses, whilst they should use that as a tool, they've got to be very wary in the sense of
100%.
finding out both sides of the story, and really, if you are, maybe not to kick a complete side as you'll completely discount a
Yeah.
proportion of the people that you're trying to sell to or advertise to, etc.
For sure. And like
Yeah.
the reality is, as much as we want to like dismiss that
Mm.
type, like cancel culture is real, right? It kills businesses, you know? And it has to be taken like right now it might not be that big for a lot of the bigger businesses right now, but I feel like the more social media continues, the more accountable people are being held, right? And the
I,
more things people are finding out.
I feel like cancel culture among like influencers right now is kind of what's keeping him
It's
alive.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like people support it, people go against it, and that tells the story of where they stand. And you're 100% right. It is political, 100%. But that's what people are using nowadays, right? For like their storytelling. So knowing where you stand and watch and being weary, like you said, is really important. All right, let's move on to the next one. And this one's a good one. Choosing your marketing avenues. I'll let you
Right.
start, Mark.
All right. So let's talk about like what it means. Like
Mm.
when we talk about choosing your marketing avenues, we're talking about where you're gonna market this, your specific campaign, where you're gonna put your product out to. It could be on a like this could be like a website, a blog. It could be just a what do you call them?
Billboard.
Billboard and shit like that.
Yeah,
And you got to consider like the factors, like the pros and cons behind each one of those, because you can be putting a lot of money into a billboard, but then if it's not driving sales, then what's the point of it? You know what I mean?
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think now we're going to a point where the marketing like the stats are showing that you know the traditional marketing has a place, right? It has a place, but not as significant as a place in digital marketing, simply based off profits, right? Simply based off profits. The fact that digital marketing right now has such a higher ROI than traditional marketing, and it's proven through the businesses that are investing 90 to 95% in digital marketing and businesses that are investing 90 to 95% in traditional marketing. And we always use the Fortune 500 companies because those were looked up to before, right? And of course, they still have things that are admirable. There's no way they get into the Fortune 500 until they're, at a point where they need to be, right? But at the same time, they're declining, right? And more businesses are coming up. And the main reason for that is because the marketing avenues that they're choosing is something that they're comfortable with rather than something that they're experimenting with. And I think the businesses that thrive the most are the ones that experiment to understand where their target audience is going to be, right? Like, for example, we were speaking on Clubhouse the other day and there was selling something to like 30 to 60-year-olds, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they said like coffee shops, right? Like coffee shops would be good, putting a card next to where old ladies would be getting their coffees and stuff like that. So I think traditional marketing and digital marketing do have a place together, but I think digital marketing in the current modern world, it has to be on utmost importance. What do you think, Jordan?
Well, I would agree that digital marketing is seemingly being on the seeming to be on the rise.
Yeah.
However, I think that traditional marketing should not be neglected. Whilst
sure.
I think that you have to be very precise in orchestrating your business's goals, but also understanding every aspect of your business before starting to particularly put more, so to speak, all your eggs in one basket. So what I think I did read a study, I can't quote off the top of my head, but I said that, sorry, I think that 90% of businesses now are focusing more on mobile marketing. So, having things accessible by your phone and your
Yeah.
iPad of those sorts, apart from having desktop, seeing it's more efficient for a person and people to sort of check on the go, and they're always using it on the go. So that sort of aspect of digital marketing, 100% agree with. But I think that traditional advertisements, I think I'm reading again that I think it's a very slight margin, 53 to 46 or 53 to 47 or something along those lines, of people that still prefer traditional marketing. And I think that's obviously on the decline, and we'll find an equilibrium soon, if not digital marketing take over, because I do believe that whilst that there's a lot of digital marketing is very successful now because marketing is a lot of big data driven with statistics and rates on return on investment and really finding things that tick people, because people can work a lot easier with analytics and because it's information to them. However, traditional marketing obviously has seen a decline, like as I aforementioned, with difficulty in sort of understanding and tracking analytics. However, it's a good statement as well, depending on what you're doing, and again, being very precise in your goals. Very good, especially in brand strengthening and I'm not too sure if you're familiar, but brand resonance and recall. As we know that brand, sometimes I get really confused between the two, but brand recall is what you can recall based off seeing something that makes it seem something else is familiar. So what I mean by that is like, where's football played? It's the MCG. It's the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Whereas if I instantly said to you, I don't know, what's the most popular phone? That's iPhone. But considering there's so many different, iPhones, that's recognition. That's instantly assuming that place. So having that sort of awareness, especially at the top level of a marketing funnel, it's very important to use, as they're very valuable tools. But again, it really depends on what your business is, whether you're just a local business that's really homegrown and you're starting to get into the digital marketing scene, or you're starting a Shopify business and you want to really include things, well, then 100% digital marketing analytics are going to play a big role.
Do you think there is a time, like in the current modern world, where someone could start a business and put 90% in traditional marketing and 10% into digital marketing? Do you think there's a place for that today in the modern world right now?
I think there is, like I said before, if you're having a solely, I think many, again, I can't quote the statistic, but I think many online businesses are shopping. I'm sorry, not shopping. Clothing businesses, whether it be gym wear, t-shirts and casual clothing and things like that. I think that a lot of them nowadays are seeing it's because it's very easy. Well, not very easy. I apologize. I think a lot of people that do
accessible.
Thanks for the word. Thank you, Mark. Very accessible and very easy for the customer, in a sense, to access and buy now and not have to go into a brick and mortar store, depending on where it is, because it's not accessible to some other people. So that's a very key thing. However, as you notice, that many of the brands that do that are very big and are very successful usually have some sort of brick and mortar store, whether it be Elite 11 that just opened a few stores, or I can't think of any top of my head, but you get to a point where you sort of just can't rely fully, whether that be 90-10, 80-20.
For sure.
But again, to answer your question more simply, I do think that some businesses can be predominantly digital.
For sure.
And also, I'll just say something. With digital marketing, like a lot of new businesses that get into it, like if they're coming into Facebook ads with not a lot of money and they don't know what to do, that they're gonna fail straight up. You know what I mean? Because with Facebook ads and shit, like right now Facebook ads is booming with ads and stuff. There are big companies putting millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars into it, that Facebook is showing those to the people. Then whether if it's like the local like store, like say Milk Bar coming out, putting like a $10 ad trying to reach as many people. So that's why I feel like new businesses would rather go with the traditional marketing side. Like they'll find it easier than just moving into digital.
Sure.
What do you think, Jordan?
On that, Mark, I think that's. I'm not too sure about how I feel about that statement, because I do think, again, I agree with you in the sense that basically the more money you have to spend and at your disposal, you'll 100% reach and more engage more people. However, I think that, again, marketing is a very precise form of business, and understanding, because I could spend 20K on Facebook ad, but if my website and if my website's not user friendly and very accessible, and if I get a lot of bad reviews and basically fall like a domino effect, I won't get as many as compared to another person. I think I was watching a video, actually, a podcast, saying that it's not necessarily the amount of people that you get to buy. So if you're just say reach 10,000 people, and you want to increase it by more. So you're selling at 1%, you're reaching 10,000 people, then you go for 20,000 people, but you're still selling at the 1%. That is nowhere near as good as reaching 5,000 people, but selling, 75% of the visitors.
Yeah.
So it really depends, again, very precisely on what your goals are, what are your other avenues that link to that sort of thing or assist in that sort of manner. So again, it's very hard to make definitive statements regarding these certain areas because
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure. I ask the open-ended questions, so we can get like both sides. I know there's no definitive answer. Also, I think like you touched on a really good point that the nature of the platforms, right? Like when you have billboards, newspapers, footwork or whatever it's called, like, in a shopping center, when you have people walking past, they tell you, oh, you get this shopping center, you have this many people approximately walk past, right? Like billboards, you have this many people approximately driving past, but it's not really something that you can measure, right? And I think the nature of the platforms make it very hard to know which type of traditional marketing would be working out for you, right? Unless you go out and ask, but of course that's going to be more effort than just getting a stat on your computer that says, oh, I clicked this Instagram link in your bio, I clicked this Snapchat link, I clicked it, you know what I mean? So I think the nature of the platforms is always going to direct you to digital marketing, because the fact is that it's more accessible, right? And as Mark said, although it's harder, it's the statistics and the analytics that they give you, and the nature and the way to contextualize. Because like you said, you can spend 20,000 on Facebook ads. If you have a shit ad, you're not gonna get shit, right? So it's contextualizing those stats that's really important. You won't be able to do that with traditional marketing, not necessarily as good as digital marketing. And I think that's a really important point, and why digital marketing is so much on the rise.
Oh, I agree, 100%. I think that digital marketing will continue to rise and most likely supersede traditional marketing in some sort of sense. But again, asking yourself questions about you and your business, as especially if you're in a lead role. Well, what would a billboard do for me? Where am I positioning? Where I put that billboard, is that going to simply remind people of what they already know, or will the majority of people that see that already know about my business? Or like, these are certain, like, you've got to ask yourself copious amounts of questions, and really understand, because like I said, and that you've mentioned as well, that calculating precise information from certain traditional forms of media can be very difficult, such as billboards. And again, certain other things as well, depending on what your business is. Sometimes there's just things that you need to be, or probably not need to, but should be very heavily involved in, in regards to traditional media. And I think that again, really understanding what your goals are, and asking those critical questions, and having answers in order to justify to either yourself or your superiors as to why you chose that. And maybe having some stats, apart from, or even facts and some competitor analysis based on your traditional marketing. It's all strategies, as we all know, that these marketing is not necessarily a guaranteed thing. It's, if I do this, you're not necessarily guaranteed to achieve a certain goal, but it does help. If you have a strategy and you've planned it out properly in your marketing plan, or in some sort of other form, it really does help to have an overarching strategy that allows you to pick a decision and make a choice, and see how that goes.
For sure.
And I think that was like the perfect ending to that, because that sets us right into the setting your goal and budget. Because
I was gonna say, should we go like short past this and go straight to nurture your loyal customers and monitor and review, because we're hitting that like 30-minute mark. Up to you.
No, I think this is a good topic, bro. I think we should just.
Okay, all right, sure. Yeah,
because,
go for it.
All right. So when Jordan said you said like it. All right. Can you summarize the last point you said?
So I said, I'm sorry, I forgot. I think I said that basically you sort of need to be very, very precise, and ask yourself sort of questions, and summarize and justify, and not only to yourself, but others, and even if you do have superiors, in asking these questions and having some sort of analytics. But again, it's all got to relate back to your goals and what you think is a necessary strategy, because nothing is guaranteed. Everything, like I said, it needs to have a plan, and needs to have a logical strategy that you think, to the best of your knowledge and ability, will achieve one or more of your goals, depending on how big or small that is. And having that information, again, it's trial and error. Nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's why like the setting smart goals in place that kind of like shows you like what like how to like put your campaign out. Sorry, I'm choking
sure.
on my words. And your campaign isn't really just putting a campaign out. You got to have like someone like Jordan said before. If you're putting 20K on an ad and then your website is not easy going these days, not friendly to the user, then that's gonna obviously like mess it up. So you need to pay someone like for website development. You gotta make sure you have a budget aside for that. There's like SEO and all the other shit. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if your campaign is the best campaign there is, but those shit is not like those stuff are not all optimized to the like to the user, then it's not gonna go well. So that's why like maintaining a good website, like SEO and all that shit is also important as well when it comes to campaigning.
For sure, for sure. And I think that's like, the rule that, the horse doesn't matter if the jockey can't run it well, right? Like, doesn't matter how good, how, you never heard
First
that?
time hearing it.
Oh, Gary Vee said it. Anyway, we're fans of Gary Vee, by the way, Jordan. We always use him as an example, by the way.
Oh yeah, well yeah. Like I've seen Gary Vee. I do admire his work, but I also do have a few questions about as well. So yeah, it's very difficult to sort of see through social media and really understand and see specifics, as you all know. Not 100%. He is a successful man.
Yeah.
But I think that a few techniques and then a few things that sort of need to be really grounded to reality and in regards to the common, I don't want to use common as a sort of negative connotation.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
The average person's per se.
Yeah, I think his opinions are influenced by his experience at the end of the day, right? Like he can shit on Fortune 500 companies all he wants, but until he was there and he was during that time where they were marketing and they've had like a return of 600%, and then he goes and tries to tell them you need to change it all. Like he wasn't there, so like of course his opinions are going to be influenced, and for sure one of the most controversial people ever, probably why I love him so much. But to get onto that point of smart goals, I think this comes back to that point where I mentioned like contextualizing your losses as well, like knowing what you were trying to achieve through that advertisement, knowing what you were trying to achieve through your market. I had a marketer yesterday on Clubhouse who said to me, bro, when a customer gives me 500 to advertise, my goal is to get them $510 to advertise again for the next month, right? And then we have another like marketer who will sit there and say, oh, when a customer gives me 500, I want to get a 700% return, right? And both of these things is like, it depends on what you're trying to actually achieve. And each of those things will depend on how well, like the results and how you contextualize them to what you are actually trying to achieve. Because if you're trying to achieve, for example, followers, but not sales, and you don't make sales and you make followers, then you've done a good job, right? But if you're like focusing primarily, for example, on personal branding or something like that, it's like you have to contextualize that with the stats. And when people don't do that, that means they see a loss, but they realize, wait, I wasn't even trying to get that anyway.
Well, yeah, like I think to add on to that, or sort of probably add a side note on that, I think that I'm just very sort of not disheartened, probably a strong word, but very sort of confused as to why a lot of social media gurus and a lot of TikTokers and influencers and things like that, they think that clicking a button or doing a few things that takes 5 to 10 minutes, again clicking buttons and putting a certain dollar amount will generate you money, and it's very money driven and money sort of context with in regards to sales and being rich and flexing and having all this sort of money and things like that. I feel it's very disingenuous to the profession itself, but also very unrealistic, as a lot of people, the saying, you gotta really like what you do in order to be, chase, some responsibility and be sort of happy at given times and things like that. But I feel like it's really, people really, well, not people, I'm not going to speak on everyone, but I think in my own opinion that people are starting to devalue really what, business and marketing is because from my own experience with my internship, if you just say, making an ad. Okay, what is the ad? What's the goal? How long is it going to go for? What platforms are going to be used? Who are we going to use? Who's going to do the artwork? Who's going to do the filming? What sort of cameras we have? What sort of day are we going for? Like, these are the sort of questions. And then you have the time, and you got to book time, and you got to have certain people to come if you're not trained with those certain things. And then you got to do editing, and then you got to do revising, and then re-strategizing. Like, there's a lot of things that, as you see on Facebook ads, I know that a lot of us really get annoyed from either YouTube or Facebook, and really depending on how skilled that company or that person is, a lot of time and effort goes into that 35 or 40-second minute, or sorry, 40-second advertisement. And, you know, it takes a lot of work, and that's just only a 40-second advertisement. What about these huge campaigns and these and these sort of huge other sort of avenues in which people market and things like that? There's really time that's thought about. And one of the things that I think that is really important that I've sort of learned from high school in my old English analyzing days was that nothing is done ever solely on accident. Or sorry, 90% of the things that are done on accident, whether it be a writer writing the curtains are blue, whether an ad having a certain, zooming in on something or zooming out on something. They all have a reason to do that, and they all have a sort of duality or a meaning behind what that person is doing. Whether it's easy or acceptable that the general public sees and understands it is an entirely other question, and that pretty much most of the time sort of sets aside the good ads from the terrible ones that we all know.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree with that.
And I think the nature of, like, you touched on a really good point. The social media gurus fuck it for everyone, right? Because they're sitting there speaking about things like they're a $10 job, right? Like, yeah, bro, just chuck your shit on Facebook ads, set your audience, and you're good, right? Like, it's really not like that. And they sell that idea. And I think the nature of it and the reason why it differs from all other industries is because social media as a whole is that, right? It's portraying a reality that's not what it really is, right? It doesn't have to be that, but it is.
Not even a reality.
Not even a reality. Yeah. Exactly. Like portraying a fake type of thing. And it's like, that's why social media is the way it is, and it ruins it for the people that really put their heart and soul into this, because their values being degraded. And I think that also mixes with the fact that social media is such on a rise right now, right? Like the demand for social media marketers, digital marketers, content writers, copywriters, website development, all that, right? It's on high demand, so it's going to be on everyone's FYP, right? Because heaps of people are trying to fill that demand, right? It's like a supply and demand at the end of the day. And so yeah, I think contextualizing and understanding the perspective of when you're actually doing it and when you're watching someone doing it is very different, right? And when people seem to understand that, they seem to stray away from it, right? And those are the people that kind of sold themselves off, watching one Gary Vee video or one Hit It Where It Hurts podcast, right? And I think that's a really important point you touched on.
Yeah, and you said about the campaign and how so much has to go into it. I was doing an assignment for uni for social media marketing, and one of the assignments was we had to make a campaign for a business, and we're given a business, and the amount of times that goes into this shit, like Jordan said, for a 40-second ad is like insane. Like at the end of it, I had a whole campaign with like over 30 pages, and that wasn't only it. Like you had to actually like go back, talk to this person, see what they want, this, that. It takes a lot of time. It's not just one click. Oh, you're a millionaire. Now I have my Lamborghini. It's literally, it's not how they show it.
For sure. And it's just the rate of social media, right? Like I said, it's just like the nature of it, because sometimes these stories do happen. Sometimes people do really do Google ads and get massive returns, right? But they don't see the work that goes in before. They don't see the experimentation. They don't see the custom audience they've built. They don't see all the call to actions they put. Like they put 10 different call to action and one popped off, right? No one sees that part. They only see the results. And that's why, like, taking it back to what we were talking about, that's why setting your goals has to be realistic. Setting your goals has to be very understood and grounded in what you actually want for your business and what you want through that advertisement or through that campaign. And so that next point that we kind of skipped over was budget as well, right? Like talking about, how much you want to spend on your advertising and on your marketing. What do you guys think?
I think that just goes back to the whole thing, bro. Honestly, the campaign, like going in, like seeing, say for example, you work for a big corporate company, right?
Right.
They obviously, like, I don't know how it works. Like, I want to hear Jordan's view. Like, say you're working on a bit, like, for a big company, yeah, and they give you like a budget. What would you do with all that? Like, how would you set it up for?
Well, again, sorry to disappoint, gents, but you have to. There's
Yeah.
no blanket
Yeah,
rule
for sure.
or
Yeah,
rule
yeah,
of three, or it's very, very, very dependent on your goal, what
Yeah.
the task is, what you deem necessary. You know, who do you think will see it? How many people do you think will see it? Like, for example, the Super Bowl halftime ad show where all the advertisements get shown, or the new advertisements get shown during the halftime break at the Super Bowl.
Mm.
Those ads are very obviously, they have the well-known names and very sort of quirky sort of aspects and things like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Those ads,
Cost
weeks
millions.
and months of planning, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then not to mention the actual cost of actually being broadcasted during that time.
yeah,
You don't see the everyday business going on there, or even the middle class, and even sometimes even the very high businesses even doing that. You see massive conglomerates like Doritos and Mountain Dew doing these sort of things because that's what a lot of people look for, and they're the ones that can afford it. Like I think, a thought just escaped me of a very good advertisement that came to mind, but I've just forgotten it. Sorry, I just
Super
thought
Bowl had a lot. Nah, you're good. Yeah, Super Bowl had a
pumped in the
lot.
head. But yeah,
Yeah.
Super Bowl is one of the prime video advertisements packages, and these, like you said, Mark, a lot of conglomerates and big corporations would spend copious amounts of money. But there are, I would probably assume, as I don't have all the information, but there are probably big businesses that spend what may seem like a lot to us, but a very minimal amount in regards to other ads, and you know, depending on how long they are. But again, goals, time, questions, engagement, all these things, and a lot more. You have to ask yourself whether you're a big time business or, oh, sorry, I just remember the advertisement.
Yeah.
One of the brilliant ones, sorry, was the Dorito one. I'm not sure if it was aired on the Super Bowl. I don't think it was, but it was called. I can't remember what it was called, but it didn't have the emblem or the logo of Doritos. It just had the red packet.
Right.
And what I'd take from that is that business, that whole brand has been surfaced on that red packet as when Doritos started, and they don't even need a logo saying that this is us for people to recognize what it is. And I think
100.
that's
Yeah.
a very powerful statement and a very smart move. As it, you know, I didn't even think about it until the second glance. I was like, well, hold on, they don't even have their logo on it, but I know what that is. Like, that just goes to show how many businesses can you say that do that. And that's something, you know, that's very risky in some sort of sense, but very sort of courageous and very sort of, just goes to show and reflect how strong that brand is. That means that every area, or most of the areas that brand is engaging in, whether it be digital, traditional, you know, playing on the right politics and psychology of the human being, is working, and that's just the benefits they get to reap.
For sure. And the reason we ask these questions is because, like, if you think about it from like someone who's not a marketer, like one of like a small business owner, who are most of the people that watch our stuff, is like, that's the questions they're gonna have, right? That's the things that they're gonna be asking. I have $500. Where do I put it? Do I put it here? Do I put it there? You know? So like the basic like thing that you guys can take from this is that it's so contextual, it's so circumstantial on what you're actually trying to achieve, what your budget is, what your avenue is, right? Like what marketing avenue you're going to take will depend on how much you're going to spend as well. Whether you're doing an experimental advertisement, whether you're doing an advertisement to get a high ROI, whatever it is, it's very contextual and circumstantial. So that's like really good that, you know, we touched on those points and we didn't just give a blanket answer, because people will do that, right? People that have, you know, done things successfully, they have a big business, and someone asks them that, they'll just be like, put $500 in Google ads, you know, like, and it's not right, you know, it's not right. And I think that's a really important topic that we touched on. So let's move on. See, when you have three marketers thinking, there's so much to fucking talk about. All right, so we're moving on to nurturing your loyal customers. Okay, so this one's, I think, is so important, especially for small business owners, right? Especially because now's the perfect time, right? When you have those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 followers, you can really take it down to what they enjoy and what they don't enjoy. You can really sample your product or service and really experiment and understand what they want. What's your opinion on it?
Well, I think that customer loyalty is a huge part of a business and its whole cycle. I remember in the university we were taught the customer loyalty loop, and it's a very small thing. It's about 4 or 5 key sections in it. I cannot remember at the top of my head at the moment, but
No, you're good.
what
Yeah.
that basically taught us was that if you reward so first of all, understand who your loyal customers are.
Yeah.
And then, and then rewarding them by appropriate means. It only doesn't have to be, monetary or just discounts and things like that, but also just really showing that as a business that you care about them.
Right.
Whether that be, let your imagination run free. There's no sort of set thing that you have to do, but
For sure.
again, there's a lot of questions, and you got to ask yourself, well, if I do this, can I do it for everyone else? If they become loyal, or they show, certain patterns that make them loyal, how am I going to sort of, get that loyal customer? First of all, again, a lot of questions go into that, but customer loyalty is basically showing that you care. Is the simplest way of putting it, and the way you show that will again hone in and relate to your personal branding, what you're about, how you reward people, because the strongest form of not marketing, but the strongest form of spreading information is through word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Yep.
If you have a good relationship with someone like your best friend, what you tell them 9 times out of 10 that they'll rely on, depending on if it's a brand they haven't tried before. And I think that's one of the positives that they can have. It also can have the adverse effect.
Yeah.
And there's millions of ways, as we're taught. There's loyalty points, like frequent flyer points for airliners. There's discounts. There's certain multi-packs that get available, or the first things that get available that usually sell out, get notified to the loyal customers. Or there's a plethora of tools that at your disposal. So it really just depends on what you can do and what you would like to do.
For sure. And to touch, do you want me to go first, Mark?
All right, go first.
Yeah, always. No, I just wanted to touch on like a really good point. I think like when you speak about relationship and things, I think nurturing your loyal customers, I think it really comes down to communication, regardless of what avenue you're taking. I think, like you said, like just like, communication is really important with your friend, because, they're going to listen to you, whether you say that's branding. Communication with the brand and their consumers is so important, and how deep that communication goes and how personal it is. I think in the most basic format, I think understanding what your consumer wants from you, whether they like something or whether they didn't, and customizing it, or making them understand the steps that you're taking in your business and the reason you're taking them is so important. I think it's one of the utmost important things of nurturing your loyal customers, right? Because when they feel like they're exclusive and they're important and they have that part in the business, that their opinion genuinely matters, it's going to matter more for them when they buy from those things, because they're going to know that, hey, you know what, I wasn't at the meeting table when they decided that, but I was taken into consideration. And customers love consideration and exclusiveness, and I think it's a really important point. And it all comes down to really communication. Sorry, Mark, you can continue now.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, just listening to your customers, like, that's important. I feel like
For sure.
in any business, whether small or big, if they listen to their customers and what their customers like, say a customer gave a negative review on a product, like going back and talking to that customer, like why that is that, what can we do to improve? I think that comes a long way with like everything in a business, you know what I mean? And if like let's talk about what's that brand when
What?
the one that we talked shit about when they made vaccinations and shit.
Oh, fuck, bro. Come on, man.
No, it's like it's customer loyalty as well.
I
It's
forgot
not
their name. I forgot their name.
it's different, but it's at the same time it's like they're not listening to the people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And like we can't know exactly what majority of them want, but you're right. Like a lot of SPC, it was Shepperton Food Processor SPC. Like we can't know exactly how the reaction is. We can assume it from the Google reviews that they had to pay to get removed. But anyway, it's a really important point that the customers that have been loyal to you, the minute you start to sell out and kind of go for things that don't have nothing to do with you, right? Like kind of go for things just to get clout or just to follow something that you don't actually really need to follow, it becomes a problem for your consumer, right? Because at first they feel like they have their opinion, they feel like they're sitting there and they really have a say in what you do. then when you lose that exclusiveness with that customer, and your competitor might be able to do that for you as well. What are your guys' thoughts on like loyalty programs in businesses and stuff? You know, like Woolworths reward card, things like that. Do you guys think that's a genuine way? I feel like, you know, it's good. It's good because people at that length, at that measure of business right now are struggling to keep up with their customers and what they want and give them rewards for, you know, that type of thing. But what do you guys think?
You want to go first, Drew?
Thanks, Mark. I think loyalty and rewards, especially from a big conglomerate like Woolworths, they're very hamstrung in the sense of what they can offer. I think that the best way to basically make or break a customer, for the lack of a better analogy, is when a customer is not having a pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to retain a customer and basically make one for life. So I think that they're very good sort of maybe ways to target and really use a bit of sugar to sort of sweeten them over with maybe not necessarily a loyalty program, but a program similar to that. But loyalty programs, the way they work is that they've got so many millions of customers that use them, that again, consistency in the way that you reward those customers are going to be very difficult. Just say if you sent them all a box of chocolates, like how much money is that going to affect your business? And then it comes down to the question again, is that money, is it worth doing that, spending that money for them? And maybe in some circumstances it is, but I think that what we've also got to really attach to customer loyalty is staff loyalty as well. Like so many times that you've got to really treat the staff members that make these conglomerates as well, you know, give them a loyalty package, you know, show your appreciation to them, and that sort of just drip feeds down into the consumers. If you have a good corporate culture, you can find avenues and find ways of really showing you appreciate your customer base, no matter how big or small your business is.
100%.
For sure.
I reckon honestly, like, it's good because either way, like, people are gonna go spend their money. So giving that shows like, okay, you like, it's a bit like, say Woolworths. Let's talk about Woolworths and like Coles. Yeah, they probably have two different type of loyalties. I don't know what they have, but say one has a better one. Yeah, that just goes to show like, okay, now I'm gonna go spend money there instead of there because I'm gonna get like more cash back. It's like it's those rewards are kind of like cashbacks, like, you know, those cashback apps kind of thing. That's what it really is like going spending $50 and then you get like 2,000 points that you can exchange for like what, like say $5, $10. It makes someone like, if you're going to go either way, like it kind of like, it gives it an incentive, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I agree. And I think I think it's very subjective, and I love that about social media, that every consumer will take it differently. For me personally, I think like if Woolworths was to go onto Facebook and respond to every single post they had on their wall about, you know, when they had a bad experience, or they went onto TikTok and like replied to every single comment about Woolworths, I feel like that would be more of a nurture for customers. I know that's obviously not really realistic like for a company like Woolworths, but if like you see Red Rooster right now, right, like they're just getting their digital presence right now, right, and they are killing it all over TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And for me, that feels more genuine, right? Because I noticed there's someone, probably paid guy, like that has nothing to do with Red Rooster, but like, you know, they pay a guy to come in and really like talk about, you know, what people are talking about. Like there's always the joke like Red Rooster, it doesn't exist, it's a money laundering scheme, right? Like they literally address it, right? And I feel like for that, it's like they really are listening, right? And it's really important because we know, like, even though it's a meme, right, as a joke, they're really listening, right? They're listening to where the attention is, where majority of their customers are thinking and talking. And I feel like for me, that's for me, right? That's for me. But for another customer like Karen, who's 60 years old, she wants a flight to Sydney with her kids. So she's going to go spend more at Woolworths, right, for a Woolworths card. So I think it's very subjective, and I think it's still a good effort, right? Especially because of the scale and the size of a rewards program, as opposed to like replying to like 10 comments on TikTok, right? Yeah. So, moving on. Why you guys so silent? All right, so moving on. We're going to monitoring and reviewing. We've actually had a really long episode, but this will be the last one, I think, right? Yep. Yes. Okay. So monitoring and reviewing. I'll kick us off with this one.
Okay.
Did you want to start, Mark?
Yeah, I can start if you want.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I think when it comes to campaigning and like monitoring your campaign and knowing like everything like that's going on, like say for example, I'm running a 4-week campaign, for example, for a business, right?
Right.
You gotta be monitoring that at the end of each week. I reckon it's important because if you just go like put it out there, come back at the end of the campaign, it's like you're basically just leaving it all for luck, right?
Yeah.
But if you're monitoring it consistently, then you can tweak changes. Say for example, you have an ad with like 10 ad sets. A few ad sets are not performing well compared to the others. You can go on and like change that, like put those that stop them, put that money into the ones that are performing and shit like that. So I reckon like always monitoring, reviewing and shit like is important when it comes to campaigns.
For sure. Jordan, did you?
Yeah, so adding on to what Mark said, constantly reviewing it and constantly understanding, your points of where you are succeeding in and where you need to improve on are going to be a very distinguishable factor in order for you to attaining success. And I think that, again, if we're talking about monitoring and reviewing, we need to again define it and be precise in what we actually are monitoring and reviewing. And I think that this goes hand in hand to our previous topic with customer loyalty, is the sense that CRM systems, and for those that don't know, customer relationship management systems, can be an easy sort of interface, an all-in-one interface that allows you to sort of look at key metrics of what you're doing, but also be very intact and be in the moment with your customers and what they're feeling. And they can that can be through emails, that can be through surveys, that can be through satisfaction if by products or services and things like that, testimonials. These things help you and give you an indication of where you lie, not only in the business realm and especially in your competitive environment, but also how you are doing overall as a business and overall as a person and a human being, and the products and services that you are offering.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's really important, that because if you don't know what you're reviewing, like I said, you can't contextualize the stats. You can't know what analytics you're looking at, why they're important, what you're actually trying to achieve, right? And monitoring as well, like seeing how your ads are performing over time, seeing which call to actions are resonating with your customers and which aren't. What's your opinion on like re-strategizing in the middle of an ad? How often, like of course it's circumstantial. Some people really like to play out ads. Like if they have a content plan or whatever, or an advertising campaign, they really like to play it out for experimental reasons, right? But when you have a client, you can't really do that, right? Like it's going to be hard on the client to be able to say, hey, look, it's not performing that well, but we're just going to play it out to see how it goes, right? So like, how do you think people should be attacking that? Because this is like obviously a bit controversial, because people think that re-strategizing is so important, especially in a modern day trending, like things change, customers' attention change, trends arise that might give more rise than what you've originally planned. What's your opinion on that? And how do you because obviously there's no blanket answer, I know, but like what's your opinion on it?
Well, that's a very good question, Mark. And I think the way to sort of tackle that would be to, in the strategizing phase and the planning phase, would be to sort of account for these, or account for this
For sure.
very question. So basically how I would do it personally, if that is, I have a client or I'm doing something for a business, would be to sort of make them familiar with, would you like to do some multivariate testing, in the sense that, similar to how websites work with landing pages, if I just say I have a certain color, certain text, certain font, certain image on one landing page that I direct someone from another backlink, I might have a different landing page, and then see what gets more. We'll see what's more receptive. See what's more, if I get more positive feedback to one or the other. See how many people like that landing page, whether again it be in the font, text, or if it's overall sort of visibility and accessibility and aesthetic. So I think the same thing goes for videos. We're going to have one sort of, overall video that's going to go on our platforms. I think that's another thing that you sort of got to understand as well, that having video videos attached to video specific platforms is a very big key that I don't think many people really understand. Like
100.
if you're putting a video attached or a video ad attached to YouTube, that's going to be more benefit to you than doing it through, I don't know, Twitter. They've got to really understand that. But again, if I'm having a 45-second video on Facebook, well, if I do a 10-second video or 30-second video on YouTube, what gets more hits? What gets more conversions? What gets more hits? What gets more of that? So I think that having that sort of in the planning stage of multivariate testing and really understanding, why instead of putting all my eggs in one basket, why can't I put them in a multiple and see what's the best for me? That's just a personal opinion. That one of the many avenues that I would trying to be as specific as possible. But again, goes back to very precise and
circumstantial. Yeah, for sure. Like,
okay, can I just jump in? Is the stream frozen?
Which one? For Facebook?
Yeah, just double check.
I'm still hearing Jordan talking, so I think it was sweet.
Okay, sweet. Okay.
Yeah, it might just be your internet.
Yeah, go on.
Maybe
now.
IG, maybe my internet. It's usually my internet, not your internet.
No, go on.
Yeah, but for sure, Jordan. And I think, like, we ask these questions to invite opinions, but of course, they can't be definitive, right? Social media can never be definitive in its answers. It's all based on experiment results and everything. And as we're finally reaching that hour mark, I think, right? We're reaching that hour mark.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
Hour mark. Anyway, sorry. Don't watch anymore. No, but it's been honestly a great discussion. I think anyone watching this that's starting to market their business and want to get an opinion from two sides of the scale, no matter where you are, we call traditional marketers the evil side, and we call ourselves the good side. We're the angels, they're the devils. But just kidding, but like we love getting like different opinions, being able to inform each other of where we are, because obviously your degree is going to be teaching in a certain way, and you're going to be now with your internship, you're going to be learning the practicality of it and everything. Me and Mark kind of jumping straight into that practicality thing, no degree, just ourselves and what we've learned over time through our online courses and everything. So it's like getting those two different outlooks is so important, and it invites so many different opinions that people might have, right? Like, because if me and Mark are talking, we're gonna have two opinions all the time, right? People watching might have a separate opinion. We might overlook that. They might not want to talk because they're scared that I'm gonna say, hey, shut up. So getting that was great. So thank you so much for that, Jordan.
No stress. I just want to say thank you, gents, for having me on, and it's been really informative and really a really good time, and talking about what we love doing. And I think that it just goes to hopefully inspire anyone else that is watching and really needs that extra kick or that extra motivation to do what they want to do. And I also applaud that what you two are doing as well, especially not having any experience at the start, which is perfectly okay, and you're doing your due diligence with analyzing and studying and reading upon on things and really understanding your market and learning as much as you can and hearing opinions from people like myself, whether you side with us or not. I feel that's a very important thing, and that really just reflects of the type of people that you are and the type of business that you're running. And I think that I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and hopefully I'll be seeing Zoris Media more often and on to bigger and better things.
Hopefully. And thank you so much, and we wish you all the best in your apprenticeship, internship, and finishing your degree, and we think you'll go on to do great things, man. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast, mate. Like, honestly, provided so much value to anyone watching, and it's good to hear someone other than me and Mark talking back and forth, so it was fantastic. Thank you so much. Any final comments?
I just wanted to say for everyone watching and that's going to be watching, we're going to link Jordan's LinkedIn in. He has some good articles on the stuff that we're talking about, so make sure to go check those out.
For sure, yeah. And so as we're coming to the close, thank you guys so much for watching. If we just quickly address the comments, I know we're late, they've probably left, but we just quickly address the comments. Jordan, a lot of people like your glasses. Whoop dear. Mel said Flacco's background. Nah, my one's better. Come on, the Arab red blanket goes hard. And Mark's getting belted, and Mark is in his penthouse. All right, that's the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys. This is Hit It Where It Hurts. We're live every single night at 8:30. We love you all. Thank you for all the views, support, likes, shares, anything else. If you guys want to reach out, just reach out through our socials. You know where our socials are. Make sure you guys go check out Jordan Hodges' LinkedIn. He has amazing articles. Hopefully when he finishes his degree, you're going to be seeing him marketing for some of the best industries some of the best companies in the world.